Hello everyone and welcome to final stage of this game, Galleon Galaxy, and definitely my favorite stage in the entire game. Stage level pretty much the same. Now, I've talked a lot about stuff that makes stages good, stuff that makes stages bad, and I've rambled on about quite a bit of bad stuff in a lot of the other stages, and I've given examples of what good stuff could be like, and in this stage we're gonna see a lot of the good stuff that I've mentioned come into effect, full effect in this stage here, to craft something pretty good. So, first off in Galleon Galaxy, I will have to talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, everyone's aware of it, and I will have to mention it. Without the expansion, this stage feels incredibly empty. And, well, I can kind of see that maybe I see for the final stage they tried to do something different with the expansion, where in all of the other stages, the expansions was pretty much like bonus content. Like we have parts of the stage now that we have like little like side areas that we've cut out, and they're now available as expansions. And after you've played through the base stage, you can then be like, okay, I want to expand it. I want a little bit more content. Give me some more content for a few pages. And that's, I mean, there are some problems with that philosophy, but it's overall not anything bad. It's alright. However, in this stage, I feel like they went a bit overboard with that, because I guess they were like, okay, so far everything's been bonus content, so now let's make a stage where the expansion pretty much is the content. Whoa. And I don't know. I can understand that they were like, okay, after 4 stages, let's do a little bit something different with expansions. But if you want to do something different with expansions, I don't think this is the way to go. Especially nowadays, where a lot of games have a lot of very important content being cut out deliberately and then being issued as DLC. In an age where that is common practice, a stage like this does leave a little bit of a sour taste. And once again, like I said in the other stages, I would like it if the expansion adds something to the base stage, which also doesn't quite happen in this stage. It's just, once again, more content. But at least all of the content that's being provided in this stage is, in my opinion, really good. So even though you pretty much have to expand this stage, which makes the whole expansion thing not that special anymore, because if it's kind of mandatory for almost all of the content, then it's not really special anymore, in my opinion. And I thought the expansion was supposed to feel special, but whatever. So now that we have that out of the way, that's probably the most bad stuff I'm going to talk about in this stage, because apart from here, we're going to talk about a lot of good stuff. We will have to go over the intro once again. The intro for this stage consists of this little island over here and the little pier that shows you where the middle of the stage is. So from here on, when you start this stage, you come out here and you look right towards this pier. So obviously when you come in here, you may see some quills over there as well that are floating around in the sky. Not really in the sky, but in the middle of the air. So obviously you go to this pier and you see that there's a bunch of quills and that there's an island over there. So once again, you have to remember what the ability is that you need to use here, which is the fly ability. And with the fly ability, you can make it all the way over there to the other side and to the other island. Now, that's obviously not everything that is around here. If you don't immediately go to the pier, and you can have a look around, you can see that there's some sort of thing here that you can't interact with, because when you go here for the first time, there'll be like an energy shield in front of this, so you can't actually do anything with it. But it's okay, you're just like, okay, can't do anything with this, let's move on. Come around here, because there's a little bit more of a wooden plankings here, you're like, oh, wait a second, there's stuff here, there must be something here. Because let's say this was just a cliff, or there was just a bunch of rocks here. Let's say these rocks that were over here would expand all the way over here as well. You wouldn't think there was maybe that much special stuff over here. Maybe this skeleton with a bunch of coins next to it is like the entire reason why this side of the island even exists. So like, okay, there's a skeleton here, whoop-de-doo. But because there's some wooden plankings here, you're like, oh, there's more stuff, there's more stuff. So you walk around here and whoop, there's more stuff, woo! And you see this thing. Now, you might have seen it already. Usually when you just walk over here, you might miss it, but there is actually a yellow rock over there that you can explode with grenade seeds, or whatever they're called. Now, it's fairly easy to miss this block, and I would have personally liked it a bit more if this block was more visible while climbing up here. Maybe you would actually be able to see the block from over here. Like let's say the tree is still there, but this rock cropping here is a bit further inwards, so you can still see the rock from over there while walking around here. That's one way of doing it. Another way would be have some of these floating blocks. Imagine if these floating blocks were, instead of going over to the side that it's going now, it would curve over and actually curve towards the island. So let's say this block that I'm standing on right now is a lot closer to where the rock is over there. Maybe even it's right above the block, and you have like this little curve going where you curve around towards the yellow block and then you curve backwards to these blocks over there. That would make it so you would actually have to look over there and see the yellow block. Now, why is it, in my opinion, so important that you see the yellow block? It's important that you see the yellow block because there's quills inside. If there was like pirate treasure inside, like something that I mentioned in the very first stage where I was said like, okay, some of the really well hidden quills could instead be pirate treasures, and that would feel more like not something mandatory like, oh, this is a secret that you have to find, and more like, oh, this is a secret that when you find it, it feels really good because it's something bonus, something extra, something other people might not have found, because it's not something that's mandatory. But with this, it's pretty much mandatory that you find and see this yellow block over there so that you can explode it later because there's quills inside. Anyway, long story short, you don't actually need to go up here with the tongue lash, you can just fly. This is something that we're gonna see a little bit more in the stage, not that much, but we're gonna see some of it in the stage where instead of climbing something, you can just fly up. Just fly, you know. There's a ghost right in here, which I really like. And there's some grenade stuff. Now, the fact that there is grenade stuff in here, I don't know. When you get to this grenade stuff, what do you think? Why is this grenade stuff here? Is it because so you can open this side of the room and then leave through here? Is that why the reason it's there? Or have you already seen the block and you know it's down there, so you use it to destroy the block from up here? Or do you actually figure out that if there is grenade seeds over there, grenade berries, and it's just for this block, which does seem a bit of a waste, so there must be something else to do with it. Do you figure out that there must be something else to do with it, and because there must be something else to do with it, you figure out that there is indeed a block somewhere else to use it on? I don't know. I don't think people would assume that there would be more to do with it. By the way, I don't actually think this reaches. Nope, it just disappears. I don't think people would figure out just from the stuff that they see in this room that there must be another block to use the grenade berries on. So this doesn't help too much either. But anyway, you go up here, there's some, I think like 3 quills in here. So if you're missing 3 quills, by the way, and you haven't seen this block, that's where they are. But enough about this part. I do like the fact that they have this like little tongue lash gauntlet over there. It's fun to go up there with tongue lash. I'll definitely give it that. It's fun to go up there with tongue lash, but we can kind of go up there with fly anyway. And the thing is, there's not really any incentive to go up there with tongue lash because there's nothing on the way. There's no important collectible or any other collectible, like secret collectibles or anything, on the way up here. So if you fly up here, there's actually absolutely nothing you've missed. You've missed a bit of gameplay, sure, but I don't think people in a collectathon want only gameplay without collectibles. People want gameplay and collectibles. So just getting a bunch of gameplay over here, I mean, people are just gonna skip it. So now that's the part over there. Now something that I've said earlier in my Capital Casino video, which is gonna come back later, is seeing something in the distance and then being like, oh, I want to go over there and climb up there. Now because fly is in here, that's not really something that happens anymore. I mean, it didn't happen that much in the other stages either, but that was just the problem of those stages, and it's something that I said I didn't like. That there wasn't really anything where you like saw something in the distance, felt like you wanted to climb it, and then you would make your way over it and climb it, and then feel really nice, like because you've seen a challenge in the distance, you've challenged yourself, and you've overcome something, and oh, that feels good when you stand at the top of this giant tower that you've seen from afar, and then look down, you're like, oh, nice. But whenever that happens, it's either, okay, you get teleported up, like in the first stage, where you just go into this black door at the bottom of the monument, and whoop, now you're halfway up. Then you go into another black door, whoop, now you're all the way up. You didn't actually climb anything, so it didn't happen in that stage, this like big climbing experience. And now that we have fly, it's not really gonna happen that much in this stage either, because why would you, we don't need to climb anything. We can just do this, you know? Oh, there we go. No reason to climb anything. Now that said, even with a move like fly, there are still ways that you can make it so the player goes around and actually does climb stuff manually even without flying. We're gonna get to that in a second. But first off, you get rewarded with the other side of this like sort of transportation tube. And I think Trouser tells you about this thing on how it works if you talk to him. They're pretty nice, but ultimately they're not needed. They're not needed ultimately, but they are pretty nice. I think they're pretty nice. They don't just subtract from the stage, but instead they add sort of like to the atmosphere. I think it does add to the atmosphere, and if you can use them, it feels cool, and it feels like, oh, now I'm gonna save some time when I'm flying around, because I don't want to fly around this entire stage all the time. But with these tubes, oh, it goes a lot faster. Oh, nice. They're not even used in speedruns though, because you're just not on route for those. Anyway, so we talk to Trouser, we get our final ability in the game. It's fairly simple to find Trouser in here. I would have liked it if he stood below a lamp, just because he looks a bit dark there. I mean, people are not gonna miss him. I don't think you need to light him so that people don't miss him, because he's right there. But, I mean, it would still just look nice if he was in the light, you know? At least, my opinion. Because he looks so dark, man. Anyway. What's instead having a light on it is this door. When you come to it and the page is still there, you can talk to this door, and the page on the other side is gonna talk to you and tell you like, dude, help me. But it's gonna be fairly obvious that you can't actually go through this door, so you're gonna have to find another way in, and then you do that. Nice. So, the way up here, like I said earlier, why would you want to go that way if we can just fly up? Well, I think actually there's quills up here if you do it for the first time. So you can test out your new moves, and there's quills up here, so even though you have fly, you don't really want to use fly, and you're not going to use fly because you want the collectibles. That's a very important way of making sure that people still play through your content even though you have fly. I've heard a lot of people say that fly sort of destroys the entire of all the like exploring and running around and doing the gameplay section when you can just fly over everything, but I disagree with that. In the sense that it doesn't necessarily have to skip you anything if there are collectibles on the way. Because if there are collectibles on the way, like even a lot of them, like say there's like 4 quills up the ramp over here, people are not gonna fly up here if there's quills on this ramp. Even if this ramp was just a bunch of platforms, people would still jump up and do the platforming to get to the quills, because if there's like 4 quills up here, flying from quill to quill is quite a hassle actually. But if you can just do some nice simple jumps, oh look at those nice simple jumps and some fluttering in there as well, that feels a lot better than just flying over it anyway. And it's maybe even faster. It's faster and it feels smoother. So people are not gonna fly over it, people are just gonna play it. And that's one of the great ways you can do this to make sure that people don't skip stuff. And I can kind of see that in a bunch of other stages, in stage 1 to 4, especially in the first stage with the monument, they were like, okay, what if people come back later in the game and they have the fly ability? Why should we make this entire monument with a bunch of platforms and ways to climb up the monument painstakingly if later on you just get the fly ability? Like imagine, what does I say? Okay, like imagine Click-Clock Wood. Imagine the big tree in the middle. They could say to themselves, okay, if you had the fly ability from Yooka-Laylee and Click-Clock Wood, people wouldn't climb the tree anymore, like normally from going from the bottom and then climbing all the way up, doing all the gameplay sections towards the top. People would just fly towards the top. But I say no, people wouldn't fly towards the top because there's stuff to do on the way up. There's notes, there's Jiggies to collect. Maybe there's a Jinjo that you're like, oh, maybe I need to find a Jinjo. Let me make sure that there's no Jinjo around and go all the way up there like that. Maybe I want some Mumbo's token. Maybe I want to see what has changed between seasons. Like, there's a multitude of reasons, most of which is collectibles, that makes you not want to just fly all the way up towards the top. Like, imagine if you went into Click Lockwood on a playthrough right now, you go into the stage for the first time, you go to the flight pad right away, and you fly all the way to the top of the tree. You would be like, damn, I just missed the entire stage. I need to go back and immediately collect everything because I haven't done anything. Like, flying to the top is like so little of completion that I haven't really done anything now. So, by the way, to come back to this stage doesn't do that flying stuff too much. Not the flying stuff, that stuff like seeing stuff in the distance and like having something to climb or explore. But it's not a problem actually. So if in case you were like, and that's why the stage is bad, like that's not the moral of this ramble. That's not the moral of this ramble. I'm more rambling about game design in this game in general, as well as other stages, like mostly the first stage, in comparison to this stage. So yeah, coming back to that, in the first stage, I feel like if you do fly either halfway up or all the way towards the top, you haven't actually skipped that much. And if you can just fly towards the halfway point, collect a bunch of quills, and then fly all the way up towards the top, and you've pretty much done the entire monument. You can actually do it really fast with fly. So I feel like instead of being more like, I don't know what went on in their heads. I just assume that that's what went on in their heads, because when I look at the game, this is what I see from the level design and the game design on what it should be. So when I see that monument, I'm like, okay, the game designers were like, since they have fly, let's just not make this whole thing a thing to climb, is it just gonna fly? So instead, let's just have these things that teleport you halfway up and then teleport you all the way to the top. Because in that way, even if you have fly, you're not skipping gameplay, because there is no gameplay in between that. But I think that's definitely the wrong way to go about this, because you can put gameplay in between there and make it very appealing to play through if you put collectibles there. If you just put collectibles there, people are gonna play it normally, they're not gonna fly all the way up there. Guaranteed. That's one way you could have handled that. So, now we come in here, which is a nice little thing. The camera shifts into this position, which is nice, because you need a camera position like this to do this in. And then you have some branching paths right here. The right way here leads to some quills, the left way here leads to the top. I like this part. Like, this is a part of a... This is a little bit of a maze, but it's an okay maze, because you can see quite a bit of the maze from outside, and the camera view helps you navigating as well, and the maze is not that big, so it's fairly easy to go through. And on each of these levels of the maze, you can say this maze has like 3 levels and you go up and down levels. On each of these levels it's fairly obvious how big all the rooms are and where you have been, where you're going, and you can get like a sort of a map of this maze in your head fairly quickly. And even if you don't get the map, it's still fairly simple to figure out what this maze is like and where you want to go, where you don't want to go. And if you've collected everything, most importantly, if you've collected everything, it's fairly simple to figure out in this maze. I like this part. So then you get a pagey over here, but while opening the pagey, the lighthouse turns on, and Octopus is gonna come out and be like, hey guys, I'm here. So I really like that you don't just get a pagey, you get a pagey and you get the cutscenes to sort of lead you on. Oh, I really like that. I really love that when the game just very naturally leads you on from one part of the game to the next part of the game. Like, oh, you've done something, but look in the distance, here's more stuff that you can do. You don't have to do it, but I'm just showing you, look, there's cool stuff over there. Do you want to do cool stuff? That's the way you go. And I really like that. I feel like the game doesn't do that enough in other places. Or at least over here it does it, and it's nice. Oh, whoops. With Octopus at least. And Octopus is fairly important to the stage. Can we do it? Yeah. Yes, we could do it before the gate closes. Nice. Then we go back down here. If you want to collect the molecules atop the lighthouse, you go over here to Octopus, and if you want to, you can go over in here as well. Now the Lunar Lockup, which is this area in here, it's a pretty cool area, which combines some of the Slurp State abilities and your Slurp Shot abilities to like sort of like solve puzzles. I really like that. I would have loved to see more like that in other places of the game and not just this place, and some more cool, interesting combinations as well. But the fact that it exists like at all is good, definitely good. So we have Octopus with one of the best transformations in this game. Really like the Galleon. They call it a battleship, but I want to call it Galleon because it's called Galleon Galaxy, you know? So then over here we have a bunch of balloons that you can pop. Yay. And the pagey right next to it, pagey piece, and then you have a bunch of other pagey pieces flying around the stage that you can collect. But not actually at this point, because you have to expand the stage for it first. So with the Galleon transformation, you can go around, you can sort of test out how your abilities work. You got 3 different types of shots, and you have to use all 3 different types of shots, or at least 2 of them, to make it out of this area over here. You get a bunch of freedom, but even though you have a ton of freedom, if you don't expand the stage, there's absolutely nothing in here, so you don't actually get to use your Galleon at all. Apart from this area over here, which I call the crane building. You come over here, you go to the crane building, you do a bunch of switches and stuff. This area is pretty alright because once again, it makes you use your abilities as the Galleon in order to solve a bunch of puzzles and go around a bit and explore an area that is unknown to you. But you can explore the area fairly quickly and go around and then solve the puzzle, and it feels pretty good. And if you've been paying attention, you might be able to hear that there is a ghostwriter around, and you'll be like, oh, there's a ghostwriter around? It must be somewhere around here. Then you can come back later as Yooka-Laylee, or you can press the right trigger, which many people don't know. If you press the right trigger while transformed and hold it down, you actually transform back on the spot, so you don't actually you don't have to go back to Dr. Puss. You can just hold down right trigger, transforms you back on the spot. Nice. Yeah. I really like this area because of that. Now, there's some... I do have to say that there's some... Even though this area in its base state is pretty good, there's some awkward decisions around here. First off, there are some quills back here. If you're missing a bunch of quills, like 3 quills, there's like 3 quills back here that spawn only after you've expanded the stage. That might have been an oversight from the developers, and this might not be intended, but why are there more quills spawning in areas that you've already explored as part of the base stage? That feels a bit counterintuitive to do that, because especially it only happens in one other place in the entire game, which is in stage 3, and once again for only like 3 quills. So that's a bit awkward. I assume it's a developer oversight where those quills over there were coded incorrectly to only spawn after the expansion. So I think that's an error, same with stage 3. However, another really awkward decision is, why are there quills up on these rocks that I'm flying to right now? I mean, I guess that you can use the flight ability. I'm not gonna say this is straight up bad, but I would say it's awkward. Because is it supposed to... It could be that the developers want you to know that, okay, you now have the flight ability. With the flight ability, you can go everywhere. You know these rocks around the outside of this area? It looks like some sort of barrier, something that you weren't supposed to go through. But with the flight ability, you can go up there, and we're gonna show you that you can go up there by placing quills up there. So by showing you that there's quills up there, you can see that, oh, I guess I can use the flight ability to get up here. Nice. By the way, you can also go up here without the flight ability, but beside the point. So you could argue that that's why they did it, to show you that, but at the same time it feels really awkward that so far in the entire game you would usually assume that these rock formations are barriers. So you might not even look at them correctly, and you might miss the quills because of it. You might miss the quills because you're not actually thinking about there being anything up here, because there hasn't been anything up here in other stages. With a few exceptions. There have been a few exceptions, but those were so few and far between that you would assume they were exceptions. That's a bit awkward. Though then again, you could also say that on the flip side, you can see this area from a lot of different places, so you would be able to see the quills from afar. So yeah, I'm a bit torn on it. I'm not gonna say it's bad or anything, but I would say it's a little bit awkward. Only a little bit though. So that's most of what we can do in the base stage. There's only one more place to go, which is back on the main island. So far, in the base stage at least, the stage feels a lot more focused. There's a lot of focus in the base stage, like a lot of linear focus. And then when you expand the stage, the linear focus then instead turns into a playing area, a play field. Oh my god, are we really doing this? Get out of here, please. I just want to have a nice little talk with my guys. Anyway. So this switch from linear gameplay to open playground area is something that is still good about the expansion, at least. Like, that's at least like a shift in tone and a shift in gameplay that at least the other stages don't have, where suddenly it switches from one like design philosophy of how to design a stage, which without expansion is linear, focused, to open playground, and that's at least something cool. Anyway, the last part of the unexpanded area is this area over here. The laser area, I think, as I call it. I think it might actually have a name. Let's check if it has a name. I'm pretty sure it has a name, like security room or something. I thought at least so. I don't know. Cosmic Cavern, that's the one. Cosmic Cavern, what a name. So these red lasers actually instant kill you, as you can see on the enemies over there. So if you run in here and you're a little bit cautious at first, which you might not be because there's nothing stopping you from just walking forwards, so maybe they should have made this area a little bit longer, so by the time you get over there, you have a bit more time to see the red lasers, but it doesn't actually matter, because if you do get killed by the red laser, you start like right where you just came out the door, so you don't actually lose anything. It's like, oh shit, I died, but whoops, I'm right back here again, with full health even, woo! And if you do take your time, if you take a little bit of caution, you see that the red lasers come up, kill the enemies, and you're like, oh shit, red lasers? They're terrible. They do some really bad stuff to me. I need to be really careful with these. Oh no. By the way, you can do this by using fly all the way over. Or you can actually do stuff like using the this thing whoop, to then glide over it as well. So you don't need to fly over it if you don't want to. What I will say is, once again I would have liked for there to be more collectibles on this path right here. Like, let's say in my world, the world that I designed, I just talked about the quills on these rock formations outside the crane building, that were a bit awkward. Let's say that those weren't there, but instead those quills were moved to this area and they were actually on this path. If there were quills along this path, here's something that you wouldn't do. Here's something that you wouldn't do. You wouldn't fly just all the way over there. But because there are no quills along there, as far as I can remember, you can't just fly all the way over there and it doesn't matter. So that's a bit of like, that's once again, you can make people go through the gameplay that you've designed by putting collectibles there, and the fact that they instead put some collectibles in really weird places that don't really have gameplay to them is a little bit of a waste of collectibles in my opinion. Same goes for any other stage, not just this stage. But because it counts for every other stage, you can't say that this stage does it worse than other stages. So once again, the stage is still off to a good start, at least with the non-expanded area. Like I said, the fact that we have to expand at this point after all the stuff I've just shown you is it does leave a bit of a sour taste, of a salty taste, but at least once we expanded it, oh my god, we're good to go. So now that we've gone fairly linearly through these initial parts where everything was played focused, where we got led around from point to point, like at the start we got led towards the center, we got led towards Trouser, then we got led up here with the new Trouser ability, we got led up the lighthouse, we got then from the switch we got led to Doctopus, from Doctopus we got led to the transformation, which led us all the way there to the crane building, and then once we've done the crane building, the only things left to do are these two areas, and maybe you've done one of the areas, the lunar lockup for example, right at the start, because this door tells you about it. So fairly linear, fairly focused, I like it. And then we expanded, and once we expanded, suddenly it's like, okay, you can go anywhere now. Just go nuts, dude. Go nuts. You can go over there, go to that side, go to the right side, left, right, front, center, north, west, south, east. Doesn't matter. Just have a grand old blast. Go anywhere you want to. Enjoy yourselves. You've earned it. That's what that's what this stage feels like. Just go nuts, man. And I think this is something that I said in Capital Casino. A playground stage in itself, if done well, can be really nice, and I think Casino was already a very well done playground stage. It's just like I said, to recap that stage very quickly in comparison to this stage. Capital Casino had the problem that the initial Like the first impressions of that stage was a bit overwhelming because everything was so big and you can't actually see anything from the start, so you have to run around a bit first and somehow find the center first, and then you get a bit of an idea. But at that point you've already been overwhelmed, you've already had a bad first impression, and then because you have to get used to the stage after the fact, like after the first impression, is a little bit awkward. But in this stage, after the initial, if you went in here before expanding, then the playground aspect is not even there yet. You've only gone for the initial parts yet. So when you come in here the second time, after expanding the stage, you can straight up go towards the center over here, and you already know the first part. So that you're like, oh, okay, this is lighthouse, no problem. This is lighthouse, my friend. You walk past it, and then you're like, oh my god. After walking past the lighthouse, I'm now in the center of the stage, as I can very easily see. And I can look towards all of these different areas on the side. I want to go everywhere. Whoa! I think it's a really nice feeling to just go towards the center of the stage and see all of this stuff around you, and then being like, oh man, I gotta go to all of these places. I want to play all of this stuff, man. Oh! A lot of anticipation that builds up right in that moment, and as anticipation, it's something that's really, really awesome in collectathon and exploration games in general. People often don't use it well enough, and I think this game also doesn't use it well enough. Anticipation. Seeing something that you want to play, and then getting over to it and playing it. Oh, so good. So good, but so subtle. Anyway, so because you don't have the same problems that Capital Casino had, we're already off to a really good start, but we haven't made those same mistakes. We've now got all of this freedom to us. And what are we gonna do now? Oh, what are we gonna do now? So first off, we have a few areas over here, and we can see that we have these little tubes that lead to the side. All of them are open already, so we can already go to all these different areas with the tubes. And we can also go to the pirate ship. Oh, yar, har, har, I'm a pirate. And we can do some stuff in here, no problems. There's some pagey pieces as well, nothing too special. I think I was my train of thought from earlier. Something I wanted to talk about, I think. What's there? Anyway, yeah. So we have this playground aspect now, and something that I really like, similar to, I guess, also similar to Capital Casino. If you look around, you can kind of see a bunch of fairly unique objects. Like in Capital Casino, you saw like, oh, the House of Cards, very unique landmark. Then on the other side, or rather, the center itself, very unique landmark, the big fountain. On the other side, you have this big, like, machine with the blowy ball mini game. Oh, very nice. And you have the pachinko machines, also very unique landmarks. And if you see them, you're like, oh wow, that's a landmark, man. Subconsciously, obviously, not consciously. You don't consciously go, oh, that's a landmark. Anyway, in this stage, we have something really awesome where we have all of these different cool areas that we can just look around at. So we have this giant red asteroid over there. It's comet, a planet, or whatever you want to call it. A moon even, oh, I don't even know. And it immediately catches your eye. Like this thing, you can see this thing from anywhere, and it's like this big monumental area, and you're like, whoa, this area in there must be amazing. Spoiler alert, it's not amazing, but still, you have this anticipation of being like, oh my god, that's such a giant building, and it's so I don't want to say, it's like so prevalent from all these places. What do I call it? Whatever. It's visible from everywhere. It's so big. Oh my god! I want to get over there. I want to do stuff, man. I want to do stuff everywhere. And then but that's not the only thing though. You can already see over there, and it's like, oh, what's this weird little pill-shaped building over there with these rotating lights on it? Huh? That looks intriguing. That's very intriguing. I want to check it out. Oh, what's that? There's a robot over there, and he's talking in a language I don't speak. He's talking it to me. I don't know. I want to go over there. I want to figure out what that robot's problem is. And I want to go. Oh my god, that looks pretty awesome. Like, imagine you come in here and you see this robot. Of course, you're gonna be like, oh, I want to go over there. This robot. Oh, cool. Go over there. Expand, explore. Whoa, awesome. And then you've got this like little thing in the water over there, and you're like, oh, it has writing on it. What's that? Black hole in one. Is that a golfing area? And a pun as well. Oh, that's cool. That looks cool. I want to go over there as well. Oh, and that's a pirate ship over there. A pirate ship. Oh, it's just what I wanted. Galleon Galaxy with pirates? I want to see a cool pirate. Spoiler alert, the pirate is not really cool, but still, this stage makes you want to go around and explore stuff, and I feel like that's something that hasn't really been that much the case in a lot of other places. In a lot of other stages, you either don't see too much, like in stage 2 where you don't actually see around too much, or you don't have the landmarks that you want to go towards and explore, like in the 3rd stage, in Moody Maze, where you don't have the landmarks that like guide you around, or you might not quite know where everything is. Also Moody Maze Master, you don't know where you want to actually go. But this stage fills you with determination and also anticipation, and it fills you with this desire to go around and explore and play the fucking game. That's something that I felt was missing from a lot of other stages, but this stage nails it. It's as simple as having landmarks that are very visible to the player, that are very intriguing, and that give you a sense of, look, there's something over here. Come over here and explore it. Come, you want to, right? Come over here. Explore it, have gameplay stuff, there's collectibles, quills, pages, oh my god, come over here, do it, oh. Stuff like that. They're like sirens, like good landmarks are like sirens, like try and get you to come towards them. But instead of drowning you, they make you do good gameplay stuff, and then afterwards make you feel accomplished. Oh, good stuff, good stuff. So now that we know what this stage, like this is like more of like the verdict already. Like once again, I've already given you kind of the verdict of this stage and the overall ideas behind it. But we could go a little bit more over the individual stuff as well to get a little bit more of an idea of what's going on in this stage. So you have the little island over here, which, I mean, you could have put another landmark on here, but to be fair, this island does not actually need a landmark. You don't need landmarks everywhere. If you have landmarks everywhere, then nothing is a landmark. Landmarks need to be unique, in my opinion. This stage almost has too many landmarks, but I think it's still alright. So this part over here doesn't need a landmark. Why does it not need a landmark? Because it's right next to this big thing over there. If it's right next to a really big landmark, then the island itself does not need a landmark. Landmarks are there to also, like one of the reasons why landmarks is there, is also to make sure that you know, you've got an idea of where stuff is. And it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, this island is right next to this thing, so why would you give this island itself a big landmark? It doesn't need it. So over here we have Vector Arcade. Probably the worst Vector Arcade, sadly, of all of them. We have this island over here with the Hammerlot Knights. I like the fact that all of these Hammerlot Knights have their own little thing to it. And actually, if you're a speedrunner, or if you're playing this game for the second time, you don't need to be a speedrunner for that. You can actually get all of the keys right away without ever talking to Shovel Knight. Like as soon as you come into the stage, you can immediately go to all of these Hammerlot Knights, and you can immediately come in and get all of the 4 keys, and then once you've got all the 4 keys, you can talk to Shovel Knight, and he's like, oh, 4 keys, nice, let's open up this pagey door. So yeah, that's cool that you don't have to talk to Shovel Knight. I really like it when games do that, where you are given the opportunity to do stuff that is intuitive once you know that it works. Like let's say yeah, like an escape the room game, where you know, okay, there's a key hidden under the sofa, but you're not supposed to know that until you've done a bunch of other quests, and at the end of the quest you find a note that says, look under the sofa. Like if the game would then go, oh, you're not allowed to look under the sofa, we're not allowing you to look under the sofa and get the key before you've read that note. Now obviously you can say, well, if it's possible that the player finds out himself without really figuring it out, like looking under the sofa is something very natural. I think people would do that. So maybe in that case you could be like, okay, if we allow the player that much freedom, you might sequence break. But if it's something like in here, where you have the Knights of Hammerlot that have really weird stuff, like you have over here you have to spray some water on here, and then you have to like do the sonar move. People are not gonna figure that out. People are not gonna figure that out. People are not gonna. Okay, people might actually accidentally bump into this guy with this move, or over there. People are not gonna accidentally go over to that guy, do like this, and then this in this order to get this key. So because people are gonna find it usually on their own, it's actually okay to give the player the freedom to do it without talking to Shovel Knight and do it on their own. So I like that. I like it when games do that. It feels more natural, it feels more realistic, and it feels good to the player to do that. So that's this island. This island is alright. And it's alright. Could have used a bit more quilts, but you know, putting quilts in places like that is not something that's an option anymore if you instead put quilts that are in hard to reach places, in other places. Like I said, in pretty much any game, in pretty much any stage so far, but mostly the first stage, there's a lot of quilts that I say are too well hidden or too far off the beaten path. That could have been secrets instead, like pipe treasures or something else. It doesn't have to be pipe treasures. And instead, those quilts that are now free, you can put those in places that are a lot nicer, like on this island. Because this island, apart from the pigs, does actually feel a little bit empty. And a few quilts could have helped with that. That's just something though. So over here we have the, oh, what's it called? Bottom top station, not bottom top station. Let me go into it first. It was something like bottom top, something similar like that. Split top, split bottom, bottom split top. Doesn't say anymore. Anyway, so we have this little station over here. Oh, it looks really nice from inside. That gives you, oh my god, there's actually an enemy over there. Isn't that cool? There's an enemy up there. Anyway, so this area gives you like two ways to choose from. You can go towards the top, you can go in the bottom of this split level station. That's called split level station. You can go towards the top entrance, you can go in the bottom entrance after you've either opened it with the grenade berries from over there, or you can use the ship coming over here. So there's two different ways of opening it. I like that as well. And both of these areas are pretty nice. This area down here is, I'm gonna go through it because the game design, not just the level design, but also the game design aspect of this area right here is really well done. So you come in here, and first off you get introduced to a switch that, oh, you have to hold on the switch by standing on it for a little bit of time. So the game comes in and it shows you, oh look at that, there's here in this area we're gonna have switches. You're gonna have to stand on them for a while, and if you go off them, the switches, they're gonna reset unless they're already pressed all the way in which case they're gonna stay there. Oh, nice. Then you get introduced to a bunch of enemies, and you could either be like, oh, let me try and do it like this, and it'd be like, oh, it doesn't work. Maybe you can kind of force it, but especially in the next few rooms, you're gonna see that it doesn't quite work. So instead, you're like, oh, wait a second, I have the camo cloak, cool. So use the camo cloak, and then you're like, okay, this is how this works, awesome. Then we're gonna make the entire thing a bit differently. Okay, oh my god, it's more these security guys. Oh my god, they're everywhere, wow! So now we've introduced a new concept to the player, using camo cloak and these switches that you have to stand on to the player. We've cranked up the difficulty a little bit on this last room, and be like, okay, here's a cool gauntlet that you have to go through. And now that the player understands that, we're gonna put another spin on it. So now we're gonna show the player, oh, remember that you can use the sonar explosion move to destroy these blocks? So now these blocks are gonna become an important part, because now the switch is gonna be under these blocks. So now we've introduced yet another important gaming aspect to this, using sonar explosion. And from here you also see that, oh, sonar explosion, it also hurts these guys. It doesn't kill them, but it stuns them for a second. Cool. So you repeatedly get introduced to, very naturally, to more and more steps of this area, like switches, the camo cloak, the inepts, or the hopeless securities, like they're actually called, and the blocks that you have to destroy. And now we get to use them in different ways. Like, okay, here you have to go into this area down here, but you don't have to. You can use the camo cloak as well. And you go up here, use camo cloak. Oh, go over here. Whoa. In this area, oh my god, you can use the camo cloak over here, but if you're low on energy or you don't have that much energy, you can look around a bit more. And there's quills up here, by the way. And you can find the switch, like, whoa, oh my god, the switch destroys them, woo! I really like this area. I really like this area. You get introduced to these different aspects, and then the difficulty gets cranked up and up and up by using all of these things that you've just been told in different ways. And I really like that. I really like it when games do that very naturally. A lot of side areas in this game do something similar to this, where they introduce something new to you, and then gradually crank up the difficulty. Every single Mega Man stage does that, by the way, and every single Donkey Kong Country stage does that, by the way, as well. Exactly that. Introduce something, crank up the difficulty after having seen it in a controlled environment. So every single side area, or most side areas in this game, do that, but that side area down there does it very obviously to the player. It's very obvious down there that it does it. There's another area through over here that leads to this room up there. And that room up there has, if you remember it, it's the sort of like tower similar to the lighthouse that we saw at the start of this, where you go in, the camera shifts to this position, and in this tower you have to hit switches, then water is gonna come into this tower, then you can swim up somewhere, and then you hit the switch again, more water, stuff like that. It's a cool area, and the fact that you can skip some cycles of hitting the button in there, I can actually do it in hitting the button twice. That's pretty cool as well. You can skip some cycles. Very nice. Let me come over here to the velocity terminal, which sadly doesn't play that well. Like gameplay wise, I think this part over here is probably the worst part of the stage. But the reason why the gameplay aspect of this area over here is not that great is not because of level design, but rather because of game design. Mostly the controls. The controls for this, for the sliding are just way too awkward. And also, by the way, you can fly up there. You can fly to the second part already, and I think you can also fly all the way up there already if you want to. So because the sliding controls are not that great, it feels a bit awkward. By the way, this area down there, I've never actually seen that area down there. That's weird, I've never seen that before. Anyway, let's see, this should deal damage to us. Ouch. I've never seen that area down there. Interesting. Oh. Or never mind, I have seen that area before. That is the fail area if you go the wrong way. Durr. Anyway. So because the sliding controls are that bad, this area doesn't play out that nicely. That's a bit sad, but... whatever. It's not too bad. It's just a bit sad, I think. Yes, this is totally possible, even if you haven't pressed anything else. I don't know if you... I haven't actually tried this with the page still there, so I don't know if you can actually go all the way for this. But it still works. Anyway. This terminal is just a little bit of a letdown because of the awkward sliding controls. The idea behind it was totally fine. We have sliding. Let's do a way where you like roller coaster down a path and you have to dodge some stuff. The idea is nice, but the controls just... and the physics and everything surrounding it, they just aren't there. It's just too awkward to move around in. But yeah, whatever. So then we come over to that side over there, and we have, like I said, this intriguing pill-shaped building with these lights on the side. Oh, what could that be? Spoiler alert, it's something awesome, like a lot of other stuff in the stage. At least mostly the velocity terminal is an exception, sadly. And over here, once you come over here, you also see that there's like really weird stuff happening in the middle here with these like blue orbs that drop down, and you can use the sonar shield to like guide the orb all the way over there to the button. Or you can damage boost through it. Like, you don't have to use the shield, you can just take damage and lob the orb around. That works as well. So coming in here, we have once again some really nice gameplay stuff in here where Base Rock Station. We have this... oh, we can do this again, cool. Where you have to go through these hoops, and you're like, oh my god, there's these... it's like these drafts, and these drafts, they like yank you around, and oh my god, isn't that cool? I think it's a really cool way of using the physics and the gliding move a bit more, because the flutter move, you don't really use it that much other than just, you know, regular platforming right there, like regular platforming. But in here, by using it with the drafts, you're like, oh, cool, that's another way of using this ability in a cool way. And it also feels very nice. It feels sort of like a roller coaster type of thing with the flutter move. I really like it. I really like it. It's like a very fun area to go through. It's very short, it's focused, it's fun, nice. There's also some quills down there in these like chests. But because it's in chests, I guess if you see a chest, you would try and go to open it, but then you could say, well, there could just be normal quills, then you would also want to collect them if you see them. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Then over there you have the space plumbing section, where a lot of people kind of didn't figure out that you could open the doors of these toilets. So, I mean, the very first toilet shows you that the door is open, so maybe afterwards you would maybe even try to do it, but I don't know, maybe because you don't see any door opening, you wouldn't know. I don't know how otherwise you would... I don't know how you would tell the player otherwise that, hey, you can open these doors. I don't even know if there is a quill right in front of this thing, because if there is a quill, like right in front of this, you would maybe try and do something. I don't know. Maybe if the window was a bigger and then you could see the quill, but if you could see the quill from outside, then you wouldn't quite be that big of a cool find when you open it and they'd be like, oh shit, I can open these, whoa! So, I don't know about that, but in general I like this area down there as well, because it's another way to use the sonar shield as well, and it just feels awesome to do some plumbing. Last time we did plumbing in Banjo-Kazooie, we were a pumpkin, and we went down the clogger, and shit went wrong. Was it even the last time? Was there anything in 2E? I don't even remember there was anything in 2E where I did plumbing. Actually, we might have done. Anyway, so I come over here to the robot. It's called Rusto. Nice little puzzle in here where you have to use 2 slurp states in a specific order to make him use his hand and then make him spew fire. I like that. I like that puzzle. That was alright. Felt pretty fun. Over here is once again another puzzle that, even though it's cool in the idea, sadly gets hampered a bit by the gameplay and the game design. The problem over here is that with this sort of minigame that you have here with the floating stars that come down, is that, well, your tongue move very often just grabs something that you don't even see, or grab something that you're not really looking at, and it can get very frustrating. Like, let's say there's I see a yellow star floating right in front of me, and I walk over to it and try and grab it. Like, maybe I'm over here, turn around, walk towards it, try and grab it, like this. And then suddenly your tongue goes all the way up to the top of the screen and grabs a red star from somewhere off screen, and you feel really bad about that. So, because of that, it feels a bit awkward to do that minigame, but the minigame is still not that hard, and it goes fairly quick, so... it's alright, I guess, but it could have felt a lot nicer. Could have felt a lot nicer. I don't know. So then we have Cardos over there. Nothing too special. The Cardos for the stage is, it's not that bad. The only problem is it's really slow. So if you make a mistake, it's gonna take a really long time for you to be able to correct that mistake next time. So if it was faster, I think it would be alright. But because it's that slow, and you have to do it multiple times, it can feel a bit grinding. But anyway, you have this area over here where you have to use your sonar move a bunch to go through some gates, and then you have to go all the way up there and blow up some stuff. Gameplay wise, I think it's fairly fun, but thematically I thought it was a bit weird. The character was a bit out of place design wise, not because it's a human, but because she's a bit over designed. Like, she has a lot of stuff on her character. Like, most characters are very simple. Like, if you look at Yooka and Laylee, they're very simple. It's just a chameleon and a bat. The corplets are just like, they don't have anything special on them. They might have a hat. Or having a hat is like the most special thing about them. Apart from that, they're just walking brains. Then you have the frog guys, the frogs, they're just frogs with a hat. Woohoo. But that character, I don't even know what she's called. She has a lot of stuff on her. She's like very, like, this is like a character that might, I want to say, is a bit out of place in this game, design-wise, because she has so much on her design. And also, thematically, the quest, I'm gonna call it quest, that you do there is also a bit awkward, because it feels more like less like a little like side area that you explore and try and make your way through, and more of like an action-oriented mission. And then it even ends up with a cutscene almost where you blow something up. Oh my god. It's a bit out of place in this game, but I actually don't mind it too much, because at least it plays very nice. At least the gameplay aspect is very fun for that area over there. That's cool. And people also said that either this is something that was designed by a fan, which I'm not quite sure on that, but if it was, then I could totally see that, because this is totally something that I can see designed by someone different than who designs the rest of the game. But other people said that maybe it's supposed to be a a nod to other games like Gemini Rue, I heard someone say. Or maybe it's supposed to be a sort of like a window into what could be in a future game. Like, hey, look at this. Maybe you're gonna see stuff like this, or this character, or this gameplay in a future game from us. Whoa. So it's any one of those, I don't know. So then we have also the strongest lizard competition over here. Whoa, nice. Reminiscent a bit of Banjo-Tooie Witchy World, but instead of using multiple ways of trying to do this, you instead have to get the heavy state over there. It's alright, it's a cool puzzle. I don't mind it too much. Then we have the Black Hole in One. One thing I want to say about Black Hole in One once I get in there. The Black Hole in One, the golf itself is fairly alright. You can kind of already see where your ball is going, where the stuff is in the stage. Now you can get screwed over by the very first few enemies over there, and some really weird stuff can happen. But for the most part, this golfing is pretty alright. The thing that I don't like is this thing up there is actually where the red Ghostwriter is hidden. Why is the red Ghostwriter hidden in such a really hard to find place? I don't know. I really don't know. Why did they put the red Ghostwriter in such a hard to find place? I really don't know. Especially because I thought the yellow one was supposed to be the one that's well hidden. Like I thought the yellow Ghostwriter, the thing of the yellow Ghostwriter was that, oh, the yellow Ghostwriter, he's hiding in a really bit of a spot, so you have to find him. Whoa. But I don't know about that actually. I don't know if that's actually the philosophy behind the yellow Ghostwriter, because if that really is the philosophy behind the yellow Ghostwriter, he really should have been out there, because that's the hidden spot. And up there is really the hidden spot. Anyway, we're kind of already done with this stage. There's one other part of this stage where you have, for one, the boss, which is has a bit too much damage boosting in it. Because the boss is a bit finicky and a bit awkward to fight, so you take a lot of damage. But if once you've taken damage and you've got like this invincibility, you can just be like, okay, now I guess I'm just gonna get free hits on their weak spots because I can't take damage for a few seconds. That feels a bit awkward to play, but I think for the most part it's alright. I like the part that you have to use different abilities on different weak spots, and you can kind of guess which ability you have to use. Whatever. Another part to the stage which is really awkward is this nimble race over here. I call it race, but it's not really a race because it's so incredibly easy and there's not actually that much going on and you can almost fall asleep and still win. Yeah, I don't know about that. The first two nimble races at least had it so you had to get the energy refill butterflies on the way to make it so there was some stakes in it. It has some difficulty, some challenge to it that you would have to overcome. But here it's just, the thing for this is, can you hold down A for 3.5 minutes? And yes, it's 3.5 minutes, I timed it. Can you hold down A for 3.5 minutes? And that's the entire thing. There's not any challenge to it. There's nothing too unique about it. Like, okay, you have to shoot something every now and then. Whoop-de-doo. And you can see it coming a mile away. Whoa. That's a bit sad that the race over there is a bit slow. Maybe they could have put something else in, like maybe, let's say on the track they're like speed boosters, or they say like, okay, just for this race we're gonna make you move faster, and you're gonna have to do multiple things, like use multiple different abilities at once in specific combinations to make it past obstacles, but you can already see the obstacles from afar, so you can plan ahead in your head. I'm a fan of planning ahead, by the way. I really love it when a game allows you to plan ahead like that, because I feel like having to react to something like 1 second after you've seen something and you have to do multiple things at once can be very cheap if it's not very obvious what to do, and you lose a lot of time on it first time you see it. Anyway, so yeah, this race is a bit of that time because it's so slow, not really big, any of a challenge, but that's it mostly for this entire stage. So, this stage is playground well done. You can see everything from the get-go. Once again though, you don't have to be able to see anything in the stage. Like, I've talked a lot about this in other stages, where it seems like, oh, what, you just want a stage that's very open like this stage. But not necessarily. I actually think that Moody Maze Marsh could have been a really nice stage if you could just see that one building, that one octopus building from the start, and all you would have to do is remove like 3 trees in order to do that. So what in my opinion you need to have in a stage to make it feel very nice for a collectathon is you need first off this intro area where you like sort of get your entrance into the world from a place that's very controlled, and from that intro you then go towards a place in the stage where you get your first sense of, oh, I see where the start is and I see where the rest of the stage is. And for that, usually you want landmarks and a sense of distance. And to come back from the Moody Maze March example, in that example, you come in from the from one edge of the area. You are on this first island, and if from that point you would be able to see the octopus building, you would have a landmark that's intriguing that you want to go towards, and you would have a sense of direction and distance. You'd be like, oh, it's really far over there, and there's some other gameplay stuff to left and right of here that's on the way there. That's how you make a good first impression, in my opinion. By the way, did you all notice that Yooka is actually moving slightly on this thing while it's rotating around? Like, my feet are actually sliding across ever so slightly. Anyway, so having an intriguing landmark and a sense of distance and direction, in order to achieve that, you don't have to have a really open area like this, but it's very easy to do it if you have an open area like this with big landmarks on the side. That's not a requirement. And because this stage does it, and it does it really well, and also variety-wise, I really like the sort of like the color splashes that are going on around here, where you have this like sort of like bluish, greenish, sort of like water below here that hurts you as well. Like, because it hurts you, it's not empty space. Nice, like in Moody Maze Marsh. And you also have these like little color splashes around the edge that are the important things. Like all of the important areas around the edge of this area, around the edge of this level, are red. Or it's like purplish, like this reddish purplish color. So if you just look around, you have this like green water, blue, reddish purplish important areas around the side. Very easily catches your eye from object to object. Nice. And I think it's also a really cool like space-like aesthetic, in my opinion. I really like the like space-like aesthetic that's going on here with like the neon colors, the flashing colors everywhere, the moving lights along the pipes, for example. I really like that. I really like the aesthetics of this stage. I think they did a really good job with that. And also gameplay-wise, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of cool things to do with all of your abilities. So this stage is really awesome, and I would have loved if more stages in this game were like this. Like I said, not necessarily open, but more clear and more fun to explore. More anticipation, more determination. I think that's something that you can take away for not just this stage, but for every... Actually, not that much for this stage, but for all the other stages at least, and for the majority of this game is more anticipation, more sense of desire to explore. I think that's, in general, what I would say with... if I could give like an overall verdict for the entire game, as well as more clarity. Like that's what I would say about not just the stage, but everything. So yeah, that was that. I think that's about it. I really like the stage. I think the stage is so good. And thing is, I'm not just saying, oh, I feel like it's good. I think I've also talked a lot about why I think that level design wise it's good, which is something more objective. Now you could say that everything, like, at least in my opinion, I think a lot of the stuff that's said so far in part 1 to 5, a lot of it is, I would want to think or want to believe, objective. Like when I say that, oh, not having an idea where to go is definitely bad, and this is why I don't have an idea where to go, or this over there is an intriguing landmark and you want to go towards it, and there's some nice gameplay, nice varied gameplay when you make it all the way to the top, stuff like that. I would like to say something like that is objective, but at the same time, obviously, when it comes to playing a video game, ultimately what matters is how you feel about it. If you feel like a stage is really fun to play, then who am I to tell you that it's badly designed? I mean, you could even then argue yourself that, okay, it is badly designed, but I still like it. And I'm not gonna argue with people like that, because there is nothing to argue about. If you like the stage, you like the stage. And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I've heard people say that, oh, they actually like Moody Maze Marsh. Totally fine. If you like Moody Maze Marsh, no problem. totally fine. Because once again, in video games, everything that matters is the subjective feelings that you have while playing the game. If something is fun to you, then the game is totally delivering on it. But I want to give more of a spin on some more of the aspects and what's actually going on beneath the surface, and trying to give more reasons as to why people don't like certain stages, why they like other stages, why some parts feel really nice to play through, and why some parts don't feel that great to play through. So I hope I have succeeded in that regard, and I've given you a bit of a different viewpoint towards this game, especially since a lot of the reviews that I've seen so far are very shallow, and I've talked about like for 6 hours or like 5 hours about the game design and level design, about mostly level design for this game. So yeah, that was a bit more in depth than maybe I even wanted to do it, but yeah, that was that. If you enjoyed that, remember to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And yeah, I think we're about done. Like I said, if there's a lot of desire for more, like a lot of people come to me and say, oh my god, I want more, maybe I'm gonna do something about Ivory Tower. But I can already tell you, there's not that much to talk about Ivory Tower. It's fairly good, but there's not too much special stuff in it, in my opinion. So yeah, that was that. If you liked it, see you guys next time.